Morning. Good morning. We're in the book of Leviticus, and we're in chapter 23 today. And let's start reading chapter 23. The Lord spoke to Moses, "Speak to the Israelites and tell them, these are my appointed times, the times of the Lord that you'll proclaim as sacred assemblies. Work may be done for 6 days, but on the seventh day there must be a Sabbath, of complete rest, a sacred assembly. You are not to do any work. It is a Sabbath to the Lord wherever you live. These are the Lord's appointed times, the sacred assemblies you are to proclaim at their appointed times. The Passover to the Lord comes in the first month, at twilight on the 14th day of the month. The festival of unleavened bread to the Lord is on the 15th day of the same month. For 7 days you must eat unleavened bread. On the first day you are to hold a sacred assembly. You are not to do any daily work. You are to present a fire offering to the Lord for 7 days. On the seventh day there will be a sacred assembly. You must not do any daily work." The Lord spoke to Moses, "Speak to the Israelites and tell them, when you enter the land I am giving you and reap its harvest, you are to bring the first sheaf of your harvest to the priest. He will wave the sheaf before the Lord so that you may be accepted. The priest is to wave it on the day after the Sabbath. On the day you wave the sheaf, you are to offer a year-old male lamb without blemish as a burnt offering to the Lord. Its grain offering is to be 4 quarts of fine flour mixed with oil as a fire offering to the Lord, a pleasing aroma, and its drink offering will be 1 quart of wine. You must not eat bread, roasted grain, or any new grain until this day, and until you have brought the offering to your God. This is to be a permanent statute throughout your generations wherever you live. You are to count 7 complete weeks, starting from the day after Sabbath, the day you brought the sheaf of the presentation offering. You are to count 50 days until the day after the 7th Sabbath, and then present an offering of new grain to the Lord. Bring 2 loaves of bread from the settlement as a presentation offering, each of them made from 4 quarts of flour baked with yeast as first fruits to the Lord. You are to present with the bread 7 unblemished male lambs a year old, 1 young bull and 2 rams. They will be a burnt offering to the Lord, for their grain offerings and drink offerings and fire offerings of a pleasing aroma to the Lord. You are to prepare 1 male goat as a sin offering and 2 male lambs as a year old as fellowship sacrifice. The priest will wave the lambs with the bread of first fruits as a presentation offering before the Lord. The bread and the 2 lambs will be holy to the Lord for the priest. On that same day you are to make a proclamation and hold a sacred assembly. You are not to do any daily work. This is to be a permanent statute wherever you live throughout your generations. When you reap the harvest of your land, you are not to reap all the way to the edge of your field or gather the gleanings of your harvest. Leave them for the poor and the foreign resident. I am Yahweh your God." The Lord spoke to Moses, "Tell the Israelites, in the 7th month, on the first day of the month, you are to have a day of complete rest, commemoration, and joyful shouting, a sacred assembly. You must not do any daily work, but you must present a fire offering to the Lord." The Lord again spoke to Moses, "The 10th day of this 7th month is the Day of Atonement. You are to hold a sacred assembly and practice self-denial. You are to present a fire offering to the Lord. On this particular day you are not to do any work, for it is a day of atonement, to make atonement for yourself before the Lord your God. If any person does not practice self-denial on this day, he must be cut off from his people. I will destroy among his people anyone who does any work on this same day. You are not to do any work. This is a permanent statute throughout your generations wherever you live. It will be a Sabbath of complete rest for you, and you must practice self-denial. You are to observe your Sabbath from the evening of the 9th day of the month until the following evening." The Lord spoke to Moses, "Tell the Israelites, the festival of booths to the Lord begins on the 15th day of the 7th month and continues for 7 days. There is to be a sacred assembly on the first day. You are not to do any daily work. You are to present a fire offering to the Lord for 7 days. On the 8th day you are to hold a sacred assembly and present a fire offering to the Lord. It is a solemn gathering. You are not to do any daily work. These are the Lord's appointed times that you are to proclaim as sacred assemblies for presenting fire offerings to the Lord, burnt offerings and grain offerings, sacrifice and drink offerings, each on its designated day. These are in addition to the offerings for the Lord's Sabbath, your gifts. all your vow offerings and your freewill offerings that you give to the Lord. You are to celebrate the Lord's festival on the 15th day of the 7th month for 7 days after you have gathered the produce of the land. There will be complete rest on that day and complete rest on the 8th day. On the first day, you are to take the product of majestic trees, palm fronds, boughs of leafy trees, and willows of the brook, and rejoice before the Lord your God for 7 days. You are to celebrate as a festival to the Lord 7 days each year. This is a permanent statute for you throughout all generations. You must celebrate it in the 7th month. You are to live in booths for 7 days. All the native born of Israel must live in booths, so that your generation may know that I made the Israelites live in booths when I brought them out of the land of Egypt. I am Yahweh your God. So Moses declared the Lord's appointed times to the Israelites. So this is very exciting. Let me say good morning to everyone. Top of the morning to you, Stephanie. Good morning, Jeff. Good morning, Anthony. Good morning, Vicky and Susan. Good morning, Joyce. And good morning, Margie. And Wayne, I'm glad you have your mask on. This is a good day to have your mask on, I suppose. So we are in this 23rd chapter. It's probably like a highlight chapter, I suppose, for most of us. So here we have the presentation of the different festivals. So exciting because they all point to Jesus. Every single one of them. So there's 3 of them that they're mentioning that I can see. Well, there's 4. The first is the Shabbat. I like to say Shabbat. It says Sabbath, but Shabbat is just more Hebrew, just more Jewish. So let's say Shabbat. So the first one is Shabbat. And that's one day of the week. It starts on Friday evening and goes until Saturday evening. It's all based on seeing 3 stars in the sky. And that's how you know your Shabbat is begun and how your Shabbat has ended. And on Shabbat, they have all kinds of different rules that the Torah gives. But I like to think of Shabbat in a Christocentric manner. And I start in Matthew, where Jesus said, I think it's Matthew chapter 11, and Jesus says this: "Come to me," verse 28, "all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. All of you, take up my yoke and learn from me, because I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for yourselves. For my yoke is easy, my burden is light." And so we talk about Shabbat. Shabbat means rest. So where is our rest in? Our rest is in Jesus. So how do I have a Shabbat rest? I'm okay. I'm fine. If people want to take a Shabbat and not work for 24 hours, wow, that's fantastic. Especially during this pandemic, people should be taking a good hearty rest that just gets them away from all the noise. But it's interesting because in the book of Hebrews, it talks about this rest again. And he said, did they come into their rest when they made it into Israel? And he said, no, because there's a greater rest. Chapter 4, therefore, while the promise to enter his rest remains, let us fear that none of you should miss it. For we also received the good news just as they did. But this message they heard did not benefit them, since they were not united with those who heard it by faith. So he said, so I swore in anger they will not enter my rest. What does that mean? That meant Israel. And then for somewhere, he has spoken about the 7th day in this way, and on the 7th day God rested from all his works. So, and then it goes on in verse 7, today if you hear my voice, do not harden your hearts. For if Joshua had given them rest, God would not have spoken later about another day. Therefore, a Shabbat rest remains for God's people. And I think that the rest for God's people is the rest in Jesus. For the person who has entered his rest has rested from his own works, just as God did from his. Let us not make every effort to enter that rest, so that we'll fall in the same pattern of disobedience. But let us then make every effort to enter that rest. What is that rest? That rest is, for me, and always will be, it means Jesus. That is, I don't have to work my way to heaven. I have to strive to this in relationship. I want this relationship with the Lord. And you can read the rest of that. Therefore, we have a high priest who's entered in heaven. Hold fast that confession. He's there for us. Let's approach the throne of grace with. It's all about this rest that we find in Jesus. That's really wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. I love the first one. That's Shabbat. Hebrews chapter 4. That whole chapter, basically, Hebrews chapter 4. Then the next one is Passover. We just completed Passover, and the Passover of the Lord, and we all know the story of the Passover, the unleavened bread, and how it doesn't have any leaven, and that represents Jesus and the Passover lamb and the blood on the doorposts, and the angel of the Lord would come to kill the firstborn, and yet anyone who had the blood on their door was protected. All of this, points to Jesus, points to Jesus, points to Jesus, and literally we could spend like days on that passage, but you know the story of the Passover so well. And that's where we get our idea of what we call communion, and that is this breaking of bread where we take the bread and remind ourselves what Jesus did for us, and then we drink the cup. That's the third cup in the 4 cups that you drink. And maybe I can find it. I always have a hard time finding this one. I think it believes in Exodus chapter 6 actually mentions what the 4 cups are, if it's even possible for me to find it. If not, we'll just keep going. I found it, I think. Chapter 6, verse 6. Here are the 4 cups. Therefore tell the Israelites, I am the Lord. I will deliver you from the forced labor of the Egyptians, free you from the slavery of man. I will redeem you with an outstretched arm, with great acts of judgment, and I will make you my people, and I will be your God. So they are deliver you, free you, redeem you, take you as my people. That's Exodus chapter 6, verse 6 and verse 7. Now take you as people. So remember that Jesus has this. He said, I won't drink of the cup until I come again. Why? Because he's going to take. Oh yeah. I don't know what just happened. Trouble playing this video. My video stopped. I can't see me. Can you see me? Can anyone see me? Let me know. It all just stopped. I'm going to end.